Sports fans and, of course, Buckeye fans, we're coming up on July, so that means we're close to football season, and I want to go through Ohio State's schedule and break down exactly what I think is going to happen throughout the year. Now, keep in mind, this is all speculation, and if you follow Ohio State football, you know, coming off a national championship, this year might be different than we all expect. And what I mean by that is we've got a new quarterback. Now, I know last year we had a new quarterback in Will Howard. The year before that, we had a new quarterback in Kyle McCord. It just feels different because it seems like most of the kids that we've been throwing out there at quarterback haven't really been kids. It's been experienced Will Howard. It was experienced kind of CJ Stroud. Even Kyle McCord had put in a couple years. This guy that we're bringing in right now, Julian Sayin, has not really touched a football field in college. Started out at Alabama, reclassified to go there in his senior year of high school, and then obviously when Saban retired, he transferred to Ohio State. Quarterback isn't the biggest question, I don't think, on the team. It's going to be the line, in my opinion. The defense should still be fine, even though most of the guys on the defense left, being like Jack Sawyer or JTT. We lost a lot of guys in the secondary as well. Linebackers kind of got snipped away. It feels like a lot of the defense has moved on to the NFL, which is really great. I mean, we just won the national championship, and here we are trotting out some of the same guys, but not a lot. So it's going to be a new, young group. And the way that I've always been as an Ohio State fan is I really don't think of a team. I don't think of Ohio State. When I think about the guys that are under center for the team, if it's their first year on a team, then I don't really expect them to win the national championship. Now I know JT Barrett and I guess Cardale Jones and Will Howard both were first year guys that won the starter or that won the national championship. And so I get that kind of conflicts with what's actually happened in history. But to me, it seems like with Julian saying, hey, this guy's going to play 2 years for Ohio State. The first year is going to be getting, his feet wet, getting in and playing games, hopefully leading us to a good spot into the playoffs. And then maybe next year when guys are more developed, we make that push, especially after a lot of these guys left for the NFL. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs return, and those guys are unbelievable. And Jeremiah Smith has to stay a whole other year, which is why I also think that next year could be the year to maybe get back to competing. Not saying that the Buckeyes won't compete this year, but it just seems like with the schedule, which I'm going to go through why I think it's a little bit tough, why it could be a little troublesome for the Buckeyes. The schedule's a little tougher. Downs is not going to be here after this year, which means, hey, maybe this is kind of more of a win now mode where one of the best players in college football on the defensive side of the ball is going to be gone at the end of the year in Caleb Downs. But I think of all the new guys on the team that are probably going to be on the team next year as well are going to be the guys that we want to see get growth. We want to see them develop. We want to see them get to the next level. And that might not happen until next year. With that being said, it seems like offensive and defensive line seem to be the biggest concerns for Ohio State as well as quarterback. I am not concerned at all with the receivers. Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, and Brandon Inniss should make for a fine 1-2-3 punch. You got other guys coming in like Mylan Graham and other guys that are going to come in that we haven't even heard about. Guys are like, oh, that's another 5-star guy or 4-star guy that Ohio State's trotting out. Receiver, I'm not concerned about at all. Now, Max Clare from Purdue at tight end should be pretty solid. The last time Ohio State had a pretty solid tight end was probably Cade Stover was pretty solid. But even before that, Marcus Baugh, not a lot of guys made NFL waves. And Cade Stover's been okay so far. But, there's been I know it's hard to be Brock Bowers, but Ohio State's definitely not tight end university. But this guy, Max Clare from Purdue, does actually seem like he could be pretty solid. Now, with that being said, skill position, I'm not worried about. Corner, still, I'm not really worried about with David Igbinosun still on the team. I know he's got to cut back on the penalties. And if he just cuts back by half of the amount that he had last year, he's still one of the most physical defensive backs in college football. So that'll be fun to watch him and Caleb Downs really muck stuff up. Sonny Styles returns on the team. A lot of other guys from last year that kind of got backup playing time, like Arvell Reese, are going to get some playing time this year, which is really exciting because the team shouldn't be bad, right? Ohio State football is not going to be bad. I just don't know if this is the year to say, hey, everyone's like last year, the formula was all the guys came back. Everyone came back for this goal, and they accomplished a goal. They had seniority, they had experience, and it won them the national championship. Now, the thing I wanted to dive into today was the schedule. The schedule for Ohio State, honestly, could be tough. Now, if we start out, obviously, there's that first game at noon, against Texas on Fox, if you don't know. It's another big noon kickoff game, which is whatever. I talked about that in a different video. Ohio State right now goes in at a 3-point favorite. I guess I'm giving a lot of hype to Arch Manning. I expect this game to be tough for Ohio State. It's an opening game, so both teams have plenty of time to prepare for it, and it feels like Arch Manning is the more experienced quarterback. It feels like Texas wants to get their revenge. The one thing that I see that's actually going for Ohio State is the game is in Columbus, so that should honestly benefit the Buckeyes. Unfortunately, it's the game's at noon, and as we've seen last year, the game against Nebraska and Michigan, the fans were kind of dead silent, and that's no offense to the fans. Both those games were just uncharacteristic performances by the team. It is what it is, and it's not a night game environment like like it should be. I can guarantee you if the game was at Texas, the game would be on SEC on ESPN to be at 7:30 at night. But like I said, we'll deal with that another day. Starting out with the schedule, I'm going to give Ohio State 5 wins right off the bat. Obviously, it's going to be week 2 at 3:30 against Grambling, the off-brand Georgia team, the same G logo, but it's orange. And then the following week is a night opener against 7 o'clock p.m. against Ohio. Just let that sink in. Ohio State's first night game of the year, and probably at home could be one of their only ones, is a night game against Ohio. Great job, Fox. Now, with that being said, I'm going to give them those first 2 games, and following that, we've got some tough games coming up after that. Following that week 3 game against Ohio is going to be what I would say is going to be a tough game for Ohio State. It's on the road against Washington. It is going to be Julian Saint's first road start. Write that game down. The game is not going to be at noon because it's played in Washington. This game could easily be a 7:30 at night game under the big lights. It could be Julian Saint's first real night road game experience. And that's a big deal because we have no idea how he's going to play in that. Now, I assume he's going to be fine. I assume that Julian Saint is going to work out great and everything's going to be great. But that Washington one is a very uncharacteristic one for Ryan Day. Because as we know, Ohio State does not lose to unranked teams, except for that one against Michigan last year. Ryan Day does not lose to unranked teams. If Washington at the time is, 2-1, 3-0, and still unranked, that would definitely be something to watch out for Ohio State. Following that, I'm going to give them the third game against Minnesota. I said I was going to give them 5 games. The first 2 were Grambling and Ohio, and then Minnesota's that third one. The next 2 games I think are really tough. And we have a trap game situation coming up. It's on the road against Illinois. And a lot of people have been talking about Illinois. Illinois could be a sneaky 9-3, 10-2 team, potentially playoff fringe team as they were last year. I believe they were top 20 last year when they beat South Carolina in the bowl game. So that road game against Illinois could be tough as well. It is in between. It's sandwiched between an easy game against Minnesota and the following week at Camp Randall. Now, initially when I looked at the schedule, totally unbiased, I think that Camp Randall game could be a loss. I'm always higher on Wisconsin than they seem to be. But that road game probably going to be at night again against Wisconsin in Camp Randall. Could be a big deal. They got jump around going on there at the fourth quarter. So those 2 road games right there are tough to me. That's on the road against Illinois and on the road against Wisconsin back-to-back weeks. Week after, at home against Penn State. I mean, there could be a bye in between there. I didn't check. There could be a bye in between there, which could be good for Ohio State if it's after that Wisconsin game and before that Penn State game. But potentially that Wisconsin game I view as a trap game. Illinois we know is going to be good, or at least that's what people are talking about. We know Penn State's going to be good. Penn State could win the national championship this year. And sandwiched between that is a road game in Camp Randall. Now, following that 3-game mini gauntlet, I would call it, is another game that, hey, maybe it's easy, maybe it's not. It's on the road against Purdue. And I don't need to remind Buckeye fans what it's like to go play on the road against Purdue, do I? That game back in whatever it was, 2018, was a disaster. I wish I could say that I was watching the game, but I was a sophomore in high school at my homecoming. Kind of a dumb decision to go to that instead of watching Ohio State versus Purdue, but they got the brakes blown off them. Now, Purdue has not been scary the last couple years, aside from that year that they beat every single number 2 team they played, basically. You never want to count out Purdue on the road. You never want to count them out. And so it could be something big, could be something small. That Purdue game is the last game of that 4-game mini gauntlet that I was talking about. Following that, I think we get 2 games. We get at home against UCLA and then at home against Rutgers. Now, I know everyone looks at Rutgers. Greg Schiano always got stuff on his sleeve. In reality, I think there was 1 or 2 games against Rutgers in the last 7-8 years that have been close. The rest have been fairly big blowouts. So I'm going to give Ohio State. Those are number 4 and 5. So if we go back, the 5 games that I'm absolutely giving Ohio State, I'm comfortable giving this to Ohio State, is Grambling, it's Ohio, it's Minnesota, it's UCLA, and it's Rutgers. Those are 5 games at home. So I'm going to assume that Ohio State at home can defend their home turf and win those games. Now, the 7 outside of that, I don't know. I'm assuming Ohio State's going to win most of those because they're a really good football team, but I can definitely see them going 5-2 against the stretch. Obviously, after the Rutgers game is at home against Michigan. If you want my realistic, honest opinion, I see Ohio State as probably 9-2 going into that game against Michigan. And the way that I would see it, I would assume that Ohio State is not just going to flop against the big teams. I would assume they split against Penn State and Texas. I think it probably works better for Ohio State to lose the opener against Texas. That way it doesn't affect the Big Ten standings. But I know Ohio State fans obviously want to win every game. And if I were to tell you, well, you have to lose a game, they'd say, no, let's just win every game. But realistically, I saw a topic about this on TV a couple days ago where if Clemson wins week 1, they're going to go undefeated. I frankly don't think that many teams are going to be undefeated anymore, especially if we're going to get an extra game added somewhere or more playoff teams. I think we've seen the last of undefeated teams. Now, I know Oregon went undefeated last year, and look at how well it turned out for them. They were 13-0 after a bye going up against Ohio State, and they're down 34-0, just like that. If you want my actual pick on what those losses look like, I would assume Ohio State beats Illinois in a tough game. It's coming off of, I believe, the Minnesota game, so they should be well rested, assuming that the starters get pulled in the fourth quarter or the late third quarter of that game. It's that game at Illinois. That game's going to be a tough one. I think that's Illinois is who people are talking about. I'm going to assume that they know who they're talking about, or they know what they're talking about. Tough game there. Tough game against Penn State. Sandwich in the middle, Wisconsin. I think if Ohio State loses to Texas, they lose to Wisconsin and then beat Penn State. I don't see Ohio State losing to Texas and losing to Penn State. Those are going to be their two top 5, top 10 matchups of the year. They're not going to lose them both. And especially everyone knows Ohio State owns Penn State. Even though the last couple of years have been 7-8 point games, they own Penn State. And I would like to say that we win that rivalry game. Aside from that, I think Purdue is going to be a win. I know on the road against Purdue could be scary. I'm not saying the team's going to go 7-5 and lose all these games that I'm not talking about. I say we start out 0-1 against Texas, win 3-4 in a row against Grambling, Ohio, Minnesota, and a tough one at Illinois. And that Camp Randall one. Oh, I missed Washington. As I was saying, that Washington game is going to be Sayan's first road start. I think we win that game. I think that's another tough game that Ohio State has. And that game comes right before that easy one against Minnesota, I'm calling it. The good thing about it is that Sayan will play a night game before that. They get the home game against Ohio the week before that. They could be going to that game 2-1 against Washington. And that makes me think they're going to get that win, go to 3-1, move on to Minnesota, go 4-1, win that tough one against Illinois, be 5-1 going into Camp Randall. And I think that game right there tells you a lot about the team. That game going into Wisconsin at night, hopefully, is going to tell you whether or not this team can maybe compete again for a national championship. I would love to say that we could beat Kirby Smart and just go back-to-back just like he did. But in this era of college football, I'm not really feeling like back-to-back champions. I think we're going to see a lot of what happens in the NBA where it's more parity because there's more games, right? There's an extra 2 playoff games or 3 that they have to play now, which makes me think that maybe we won't get as many repeat champions or maybe not as many dynasties. But still, the top of the talent is still going to be Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama. It's just going to be a matter of time before somebody knocks them off in the playoffs. With that being said, 5-1 going to Wisconsin. Let's say that or Penn State is a loss, which means we're 6-2, and then we're going to roll over Purdue. Got to beat UCLA and Rutgers. We go into Michigan 9-2 with a chance to probably make the Big Ten championship. If one of those losses is Texas, then that means we only have one loss in the conference, and I'm assuming a one-loss conference or one-loss Big Ten team with a win over Penn State and Michigan at the time will get you into the conference championship, unless like somebody crazy like maybe Wisconsin goes undefeated, which since there's no divisions, that probably shouldn't happen. Maybe I'm too high on Wisconsin. To the Michigan game, obviously Ohio State's going to win that game. If I said anything else, you should unsubscribe and click off. However, it's been 4 years in a row, and while I do think the pressure of winning that game probably lowered on Ryan Day after the national championship, it still is going to matter. Right now, sitting here on June 28th, I don't feel like Ryan Day has to win that game, but I guarantee you on November 26th, or whatever day it is, I'm going to think Ryan Day has to win that football game, and I'm sure a lot of you watching this will too, especially if it's win this game, make the playoffs, or win this game, go to the Big Ten championship. Then it's going to be a huge deal for Ryan Day, especially against a freshman quarterback in Bryce Underwood that'll be on Michigan at the time. Now, with that being said, official prediction, I'm going to go 10-2, which seems low, and I know Buckeye fans are probably like, losing 2 games, that is unbelievable. They went 10-2 last year and didn't make their conference championship and won the championship. As for the postseason, I can't really play out how that's going to look, but I imagine a first-round home game against Alabama, a first-round home game against Clemson. I don't know, but or Notre Dame even. Notre Dame shouldn't be that low. Whatever it is, I assume it's a home playoff game if we don't make the Big Ten championship. I think you win that home game at night under the lights against a decent team, and then that second round when we go up against a top 4 team, that is probably where I see realistically the season ending for the team. Now, obviously, I want to win the national championship. Everybody does, but I think if we look back on the year, Ohio State goes 10-2, maybe makes the Big Ten championship, competes in that game, might win the Big Ten championship and get a first round bye, or let's say just goes 10-2 like they did last year. Misses the conference championship, wins a first round game, loses in the second round. You're thinking, all right, you know what? We lost a lot of guys in the last year. Everyone got some growth. It's going to matter how the games look, right? If it's a loss like against 2019 Clemson, then we're going to we're going to be heartbroken, but we're going to feel better about 2016 Clemson when they lost 31-0. It's like, something's got to change here. But with that being said, official prediction, I'm going to say 10-2, win the Big Ten championship, win the first round. That's 12-2, lose in the second round against somebody, maybe even lose in the semifinal. 13-3 or 12-3 is my official prediction. Knocked out in the second or third round. And go Bucks. I mean, why not? Let's have fun this year, right? The pressure feels kind of off. Hopefully the team plays loose, plays free, and that's going to be the key to beating Michigan. But with that being said, Buckeye fans or just sports fans, if you're new here, this channel has gotten away from me. It was at like 300 subscribers a couple months ago, and now sitting at close to 2K. I'm not really sure what to do. So subscribe, make me more flustered. I don't know. Let me know what you want to see. With that being said, go Bucks, go sports, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.